Uh, Here we go. Good afternoon to the class, to all the students who have joined us here and also on the social media, YouTube and Instagram. Today we are going to have a very special talk on COP26, which was a the recently news on climate issues, the summit at Glasgow, in which our Prime Minister also attended, and he made some very important announcements towards that. So the speaker for today is a very famous retired General, Major General Sudhakarji. He's from the Maha Regiment, and General Sudhakarji actually needs no introduction. Initially, sir, I used to introduce you, but now I think you have been so much in the social media as well as in the TV that introducing you would be not a appropriate thing. I think everybody knows you. But needless to say, sir, as an alumni of Sainik School Bhubaneswar, served the nation in the defense forces at the highest level, been in the UN observer, he's done all the high level respectable courses which you can think of. The last one being the National Defense Course, NDC, and he is also been the colonel of the Maha Regiment. Now I hand you over the class, sir. The class consists of our future young leaders of the Indian Army, Navy, Air Force officers, and they are about today. The class composition is quite well balanced, about 15 girls aspirants, about 30 aspirants for TS, CDS, AFCAT entries, and about 7 the service entry candidates. So they are all waiting to hear your views on COP26. Over to you, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and candidates, and Director of Academy of Military Aptitude and Skills, AMAS, Colonel Mahinder Pal Singh. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very important topic. I actually cannot compliment and congratulate your director enough for selecting the right kind of topic which has got relevance for the future leaders, as also the citizens of India, as also the current profile, age profile, the youth of the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get going, time is very limited. This topic actually requires something close to almost about 2.5 to 3 hours, but I'll try to do justice within 45 minutes and thereafter throw it open to questions. First of all, we are talking about the COP26, COP. COP stands for Conference of Parties 26. That means there are 26 such kind of conferences which have already taken place in the past. This is the 26th one which took place between the last day of October and 12th of November. Now, briefly, this issue or the heading relates to the climate change, how to prevent the consequences or the damaging impact of because of climate change on the environment, on the livelihood, on the occupational sustenance, or on agriculture, everything. You name a thing, it is being impacted. First and foremost thing is, ladies and gentlemen, it started in 1972 in the month of June, which is to be called as, at that point in time, the first Earth Summit. And it was under the aegis of the first UN scientific conference. In those days, the negative impact of the serious nature as is being experienced today had not been visualized. Followed by, in 1979, we had the first World Climate Conference held on 13th February 1979 in Geneva. In 1981, important thing took place. The scientific community and the fraternity in the world, they had come about to realize and had substantial evidence and findings to indicate that the ozone layer over the earth was getting damaged because of chlorofluorocarbon, F11 and F12. Hence, the first meeting of this kind took place under the aegis called as UEP. United Nations Environment Program, basically to address the concerns on damage to the ozone layer, which were related to chlorofluorocarbon, and the black hole concept actually emanated from then. Thereafter, sometime in 1992, the first conference took place, Rio Declaration. In your spare time, download, go into the details. in today's time frame, I won't be able to do justice, but it's very important to understand and take note of the fact that there was an Agenda 28, Agenda 21, which was very important in 92 in Rio Declaration. Followed by in 1995, the first UN Climate Change Conference was held in Berlin. In 1997, the Kyoto, this is the first of its kind, the most important protocol, 1997, known as Kyoto in Japan. It was adopted in 97 and entered into force in 2005. It was the first legally binding climate treaty. Second, it required developed countries to reduce emissions by an average of 5% below 1990 levels. So far, so good. If you all are with me, let's go to a little bit, a little cosmetic background to COP26. Now, what is it? What I have done is I have grouped the topic under the headings of different questions, so that since you are preparing for a competitive examination, you should be mentally oriented to respond to these kind of subjects under different questions, which are very relevant. The first and foremost thing is, what is the necessity of COP26? Why was it necessary? Why there was so much of halla gulla? It was supposed to have been conducted last year, sometime in November. It got delayed and it was held this year because of the pandemic. The entire development is taking place in the backdrop of COVID-19 pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, remember. And who has unleashed this pandemic? It is China. Let's not forget.
Sudhakar sir, just for a small intermission, students of the class, please note down what sir is saying. He's going very slowly. Make the point form notes what sir is speaking. Later on, you can expand it. But this is a very important topic and sir has done a lot of research on it. So I want all of you to make a quick notes. So please proceed.
Okay. Now, first and foremost thing that I wish to share with this forum is the background. What is it that necessitated for the conduct of COP26? As you all know, that this conference was supposed to have been held in the month of November last year. Because of the pandemic, it could not be held. Hence, it has been getting rescheduled. COP26 comes against the background of widespread, rapid and intensifying climatic change impacts, which are already impacting every region on the earth. And second point, why it is necessitated is COP26 comes against the background of the COVID-19, which I have already given you, with the urgent need to build back better for future generations to ensure a safe future. Ladies and gentlemen, you being the future leaders of this nation, or the armed forces of whichever organization you join, you have a moral responsibility to discharge for the future of the generations, future of the nation and the global order. With that, I must also tell you that the UN Climate Change Conference, COP26 in Glasgow, it is in the United Kingdom, was a crucial opportunity to achieve a pivotal and transformational change in global climate policy and action. Now, why was it being given so much of importance? It was being given so much of importance because in this conference, a credibility test was to be carried out. What is the credibility test that we are looking for? Global efforts, first and foremost point is that all nations who had come together, be it in Kyoto Protocol or in Paris Agreement, which I'll cover later in 2015, have their whatever commitment they had made initially to bring down or contribute towards reduction of the global temperature which is impacting on the climate change, have they fulfilled and lived up to the expectations or the commitment which they had given. So it is basically to take stock. First and foremost aim of this conference was global efforts, to take stock of the global efforts to address climate change, one. Second, it is where the parties must make considerable progress to reach consensus on issues they have been discussing for several years. And the meeting comprised of, there are three major events in this meeting, ladies and gentlemen. The first was the 26th session of the Conference of the Parties, COP26, which is primarily linked with the 2015 Paris Agreement, which I'll cover the highlights of the Paris Agreement later. The second was the 16th session of the Conference of the Parties, serving as the meeting of the parties to the Kyoto Protocol. It is in short called as CMP, Charlie Mike Papa 16. Kyoto, Japan, it was held. And the third session of the Conference of the Parties, serving as the meeting of the parties to the Paris Agreement. In short, it is called as CMA3. These are actually not so relevant and important. However, just to give you a perspective that it was merely not about the Paris Agreement, there were other issues also being discussed. It was held at the Scottish Event Campus in Glasgow, UK, from 31st October to 12th November 2021. It was presided over by UK of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Okay, and the last point under this head of necessity, I would like to share with you that there is a secretariat, there is an administrative headquarters or an organization by the name of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. In short, it is UNF 3 times C, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This is going to be very often asked and used in normal expressions related to climate change. This is the secretariat, ladies and gentlemen, which is working with the government of UK, of Great Britain and Northern Ireland to make the conference as safe and as inclusive as possible. So whenever the presidency changes from UK to any other nation, now it is shifting to Egypt. So this secretariat is going to support Egypt in next year, that is 2022. Next question which should come to your mind is, why was COP26 important and why is it so necessary? In addition to the points I have covered, also you must keep in mind that the COP26 was the event when countries revisited climate pledges, commitments made under 2015 Paris Agreement. At the cost of reputation, ladies and gentlemen, it is very, very important. You should be very clear because COP26 is not going to die out so soon, not going to get into oblivion so soon. It will remain in the horizon till the commitments made by all the nation states are fulfilled. The second point is that 6 years ago, today we are in 2021, 6 years ago, that is 2015, countries were asked to make changes to keep the global warming. This is important. This you must write down in red ink or in bold letters. 6 years ago, countries were asked to make changes to keep global warming, changes in their functional parameters, changes in burning of fossil fuel, changes in usage of transportation, changes in their lifestyle, changes in the cooking, changes in the gas, use of petrol, diesel, etc., etc. So you name a thing, expansion of the industrial capacity. So to keep, basically to keep the global warming well below 2 degrees centigrade, well below 2 degrees Celsius, and try to aim for 1.5 degrees Celsius. Just keep this in mind. So I'm repeating this because this is the fundamental central theme of the entire talk. The aim of this was 6 years ago, all the countries who are member states had given a commitment to take action or bring about some change in the functioning of their nation states, and so as to keep the global warming well below 2 degrees Celsius and try to aim for 1.5 degrees centigrade. It is centigrade, sorry, I stand corrected, not Celsius, centigrade. So what was the theme of COP26? We come to the central theme: to work together to enable and encourage countries affected by climate change. Firstly, to protect and restore ecosystems. Second, build defenses, warning systems, and resilient infrastructure and agriculture to avoid a loss of homes, livelihood, and even lives. Once again, I'm repeating this because this will keep coming in your way when you are appearing or preparing for your discussion. What was the theme of COP26? The theme of COP26 was to work together to enable and encourage countries affected by climate change with an aim to protect and restore ecosystems. B, to build defenses, warning systems, and resilient infrastructure and agriculture to avoid a loss of homes, livelihoods, and even lives. Thereafter, again, at the cost of repetition, I have covered, but I'm covering it once again because when you go into the detailed minutes of the conference, they also figure in these kind of headings. So you please understand there is a difference and distinction between the theme, there is a distinction between the aim and necessity and the goals which I'm going to give you. So what were the four main goals of COP26? The four goals were firstly to secure global net zero within inverted comma by mid-century, that is 2050. The second goal was to keep 1.5 degrees centigrade within reach. The third goal was to adapt to protect communities and natural habitats. And the fourth goal of this conference of parties was to mobilize finance and work together to deliver. Ladies and gentlemen, all the developed nations who have participated in Paris Agreement, and prior to that, all the important conference of parties, they had given a commitment that by 2020, they will mobilize funds so as to collect $100 billion by the end of 2020. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact figure, but they have not been able to live up to their commitment. Now, before we get going ahead about the result of COP26, let's take a very brief look at the Paris Agreement 2015. I must tell you, the Paris Agreement itself runs into almost about 50, 60 pages, but I have culled out 4 or 5 important points which are relevant for prospective candidates preparing for competitive examination. Now, Paris Agreement essentially was meant to provide a framework for financial, technical, and capacity building support to those countries who needed them or who need them. Once again, the aim of Paris Agreement was to provide a framework for financial, technological, and capacity building support to those countries who need it or who needed them. So what are the highlights of the Paris Agreement? First and foremost point is Paris Agreement was the legally binding international treaty on climate change. Legally binding international treaty on climate change. Second point or the highlight of the agreement was 196 parties. 196 parties, do not confuse. Every party need not be a country, it could be an organization. 196 parties at COP26 in Paris had participated in this discussion or the agreement on 12 December 2015. So it is COP21, sorry, not 26. Third highlight is to limit the global warming well below 2 degrees, preferably to 1.5 degrees centigrade compared to pre-industrial levels. Fourth highlight was implementation requires economic and social transformation. Fifth highlight is it is to be reviewed in a 5-year cycle. And the sixth highlight I have already shared with you. By 2020, all the nation states or the parties, they were supposed to have decided about the nationally determined contribution. In short, in climatic change heading, this is in short, the acronym is known as NDC. N for November, D for Delta, C for Charlie, NDC. These are the highlights of Paris Agreement, ladies and gentlemen. The question that must come to the future citizens and the leaders of the country are, how far did COP26 succeed? Firstly, did it succeed or not? You would have, I'm sure, kept in touch with the news and the current affairs. I'm sure by and large you would have come to know how much was the aim, how much has been achieved. But I'll just share with you the summary of all the important ones, because each of the point I'm covering, each of the highlight is a chapter by itself, running into 25, 30 odd pages. The first and foremost thing I would like to share with you, firstly, We'll come to the conclusion whether it failed or succeeded. Let's see what all things were achieved during this meeting. Again, these points are going to be repeated under different heads. I can't help it because the mother document of the minutes which are available in the open media have been framed under these headings. The first and foremost thing is that this particular meeting at Glasgow decided, it's a very, very welcome development. It decided, or it has plans to end deforestation by 2030. Plans to end deforestation by 2030. Second, most countries have agreed to phase out coal, which is fossil fuel. Now, there is a distinction. I'll come to what our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, has given at Panchamrit later, something related to phasing out. So there is a distinction between phasing out and phasing down. For a country like India, we cannot phase out coal because our economy's dependence on the coal is very, very high. So, but you write down the point, most countries agreed to phase out coal, which is fossil fuel that is very harmful to the environment. It's used to generate electricity in many parts of the world, including Canada. Canada comes under the developed nations. India is the only country which insisted the language to be changed to phase down, not phase out. And its use, phase down, its use because they want wealthy countries to help them with the transition. This is a very important point that you all have to understand. And because all the objectives which they had set about were not fulfilled by 2020 in previous conferences, therefore, and this meeting was supposed to have been held in 2020, but because of pandemic, it has got delayed. In a year's time, there will be another COP conference in Egypt. And what is the aim of that conference? The aim of that conference is the countries will have to show what they have accomplished and what more they plan to do to reduce emission. Now, a few additional aspects of COP26. Firstly, how many participated? How many leaders were there? Who all were there? So first and foremost is it brought together 120 world leaders, over 40,000 registered participants, including 22,274 party delegates. 14,124 observers, 3,886 media representatives. I'm sharing these statistics, these figures, so as to convey the weightage of the event, the importance of the event. The second aspect of COP26 was, it was a fruit of intense negotiation amongst almost 200 countries over 2 weeks, for which they have been working for years. Strenuous formal and informal work over many months at a stretch. I would like to share one quotation which is often used by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who said that the approved text was a compromise. They reflect the interests, the conditions, the contradictions, and the state of political will in the world today. He further added to his statement that they take important steps, but unfortunately, the collective political will was not enough to overcome some deep contradictions. Ladies and gentlemen, COP26 did produce new building blocks to advance implementation of the Paris Agreement through actions that can get the world on a more sustainable, low carbon pathway forward. So, having seen the little preamble of the necessity, the sequence, chronological sequence, how the climate thing is being addressed, and what was it comprising of, and what is the goal, what is the aim, What all did they on the outline, on the face of it? How much did they achieve? Let's go into the specific now. What was finally agreed in the joint statement? COP26 joint statement had a couple of points. As per my notes that I have researched since yesterday, 2 days back, I have identified 8 highlights. 8 highlights, and one additional highlight is about the new deals and announcements. Total 9 of them. So quickly, I'll share with you if you wish to write down. These are the aspects which were agreed jointly by all the nations. First and foremost is that the water has crossed the nose level. It's about time that we wake up. The entire global order has to wake up. So what you have to write down is recognizing the emergency or the urgency of the issue. Recognition of the emergency. In this, the first point I would like to highlight and share with you is that the countries reaffirm the Paris Agreement goal of limiting the increase in the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees centigrade, above pre-industrial levels, and pursuing efforts to limit it to 1.5 degrees centigrade. In short, you can write down limiting the increase of the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees centigrade and pursuing efforts to limit it to 1.5 degrees centigrade. Second and most important point out of all these under this heading, recognize the emergency, was they went further expressing alarm and utmost concern that the human activities have caused around 1.1 degrees centigrade of warming to date, that impacts are already being felt in every region, and that carbon budgets consistent with achieving the Paris Agreement temperature goal are now very small and being rapidly depleted. And third important point under this, there are 30 odd points, but I have identified 3 main points, is that they recognize, again, it is at the cost of repetition, ladies and gentlemen, please bear me out. They recognize that the impacts of climate change will be much lower at a temperature increase of 1.5 degrees centigrade compared with 2 degrees centigrade. Basically, we are aiming at 1.5. If 1.5 is not achievable, then we should peg at 2 degrees centigrade, come what may. That is the aim. To peg at 2 degrees centigrade, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of countries have to switch over. They have to transit from the current way of functioning to a new methodology dependent on the renewable energy, on solar energy, on wind energy, on hydel. Okay. So now the second highlight, what was the point agreed during this meeting? Second point which was highlighted was accelerating the action. The actions are too slow. It is not as fast as it should be or as we expect it to be. So the first point under accelerating the action, you can give the heading of acceleration of the action. The first point under this is countries stress the urgency of action in the critical decade when carbon dioxide emissions must be reduced by 45% to reach net zero around mid-century, that is 2050. So all countries have committed that by 2050, they have to cut out the carbon dioxide emission by 45%. If total is 100%, let's say, 45% of carbon emission will be reduced by 2050. This is the first one. Second one is that the climate change plans, the nationally determined contribution, NDC, that I shared with you a little while back, falling far short on ambition, the Glasgow Climate Pact calls on all countries to present stronger national action plan next year. Instead of, this was supposed to be scheduled for 2025, ladies and gentlemen. Now it has been preponed, advanced to 2022. Next year, instead of 2025, which was the original timeline. So you can well visualize what kind of importance and urgency is being attached to this particular issue. The third highlight or the third point which was agreed to was the moving away from fossil fuel. This is very, very out of all the points. This is the point which is going to make the change to climatic change. First point is countries agreed to a provision calling for a phase down of coal power. Initially, the draft said the phasing out, to which India registered, and hence it has become phasing down of coal power. And the second sub-point under this is a phase out of inefficient. Phasing out is being used for inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. There are subsidies which are meant for inefficient fossil fuels. Two key issues that have never been explicitly mentioned in the decision of UN climate change talks before, despite coal, oil, gas being the main drivers of global warming. These three components, coal, oil, and gas, are the main drivers of global warming. Now they have decided to phase down coal. They have also decided to reduce or phase out the fuel subsidies for inefficient fossil fuels. Which are the fossil fuels? These are the fossil fuels. Coal, oil, gas. There are subsidies being provided by different nation states. Idea is to cut out this subsidy, phase it out, and give this commitment. They have given this commitment. The fourth point, which all the nations have agreed, are delivering on climate finance. Like I have told you earlier, they're supposed to have developed countries came to Glasgow, falling short on their promise to deliver $100 billion a year for developing countries. They're supposed to be, they had made a commitment, $100 billion per year for developing countries supposed to be given. But I don't have, unfortunately, I tried my best. If some of you can find out how much has been collected or contributed, you can share with me. I would like to update my this thing. Tomorrow I have an interview on the climate change by one of the very high-ranking senior official on the subject. Glasgow outcome reaffirms the pledge and urges developed countries to fully deliver on the US $100 billion goal urgently. Developed countries, in a report, they have expressed their confidence that the target would be met in 2023. So these are the few sub-points under this head. We come to the fifth sub-point, is stepping up support for adaptation. Stepping up support for adaptation. Under this heading, two important highlights are, it calls for doubling finance to support to developing countries in adapting to the impacts of climate change and building resilience. It calls for doubling finance support to developing countries in adapting to the impacts of climate change and building resilience. And second point is significantly increased lives and livelihoods, which so far made up only about 25% of all climate finance, with 75% going towards green technologies to mitigate greenhouse emission. Now, this 25%, which was earlier allocated for lives and livelihood, is already been committed by all the nation states, will be subjected to doubling the amount. So let's see what happens next. So far, I have told you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. The sixth point, ladies and gentlemen, are completing the Paris rule book. There was a certain kind of a rule book which had been framed and formulated in the Paris Agreement. The highlights of this rule book essentially is covering the following issue. Countries sealed an agreement on the remaining issues of the so-called Paris rule book, the operational details for the practical implementation of the Paris Agreement. Among them are two core issues. One, the norms related to carbon markets, which allow countries struggling to meet their emissions reduction from other nations that have already exceeded their target. What it means is that the nations, like for example, US, Canada, China, India, let's say Japan, and Russia also comes into this. India is, I think, the fourth largest carbon emitter in the world. China is heading with 28% to 32% of total emission of the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So whichever nation, depending on the economy and the state, the third world or developing country, the developed countries, they had a moral obligation to support the transition of the developing countries into net zero carbon emission status. Please try and understand this point. The second highlight of this point is negotiations were also concluded on an enhanced transparency framework. Prior to Paris Agreement, people, what they committed, what they gave had no linkages. They're absolutely opaque. But post Paris Agreement, this rule book was highlighting there was a need to have transparency in the framework of functioning. So the negotiations were also concluded on an enhanced transparency framework. In short, it is called ETF, providing for common time frames and agreed formats for countries to regularly report on progress, designed to build trust and confidence that all countries are contributing their share to the global effort. Last but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, the last point which was agreed to was focusing on loss and damage. The sub-points under this heading was acknowledgement of the fact that the climate change is having an increasing impact on people, especially in the developing world. All countries agreed to strengthen a network. This network is known as, it may come in the fill-in blanks, is known as Santiago Network, SANTIAGO, Santiago Network, that connects vulnerable countries with providers of technical assistance, knowledge, resource to address the climate change. And the second highlight under this heading is that they also launched a new Glasgow dialogue to discuss arrangements for the finding of activities to avert minimum loss and damage associated with the effect of climate change. These are the few highlights, ladies and gentlemen. But I must tell you something, that apart from these highlights of the agreements which were made in COP26, there were some deals and announcements which also were made during COP26. It was an event which spread over 12 to 13 days. So there are some deals. This is rather, I would say, more important than what I have shared. First and foremost, in specific terms, for the forest. There was a commitment by 137 countries to a landmark step. It is a landmark step forward, committing the halt and reverse forest loss and land degradation by 2030. This was backed by, you can write down, 137 countries have made this commitment. This is a new deal. It is under the heading of new deals and announcements. So under new deals and announcement, first point in the forest, 137 countries have made a commitment. They will stop deforestation by 2030 completely. This effort is backed by $12 billion in public and $7.2 billion in private funding. More than 30 financial institutions, over $8.7 trillion. More than 30 global financial institutions who are contributing over $8.7 trillion of global assets. They have made a commitment that come what may, deforestation of forest is going to come to an end by 2030. One. Second, methane. Generation of methane or methane emission. 103 countries, including 15 major emitters, they have signed up to the Global Methane Pledge. There is a pledge known as GMP, Global Methane Pledge, with an aim to reduce methane emission by 30% by 2030 in comparison with 2020. I hope you all have understood this. Once again, I will repeat this. Methane, 103 countries, including 15 major emitters, signed up to the Global Methane Pledge, to be reduced by 30% by 2030 in comparison with 2020. Third point under the new deals and announcements are, ladies and gentlemen, are the cars, motor cars. Over 30 countries, 6 major vehicle manufacturing or manufacturers and other actors, they have made a commitment for zero emission vehicles by 2040 globally. When you go to the net, if you are interested, you can take down the names of these manufacturers. So over 30 countries, 6 major vehicle manufacturers and other actors, they have made a commitment to ensure zero emission vehicles by 2040 globally and 2035 in leading markets. So I have covered 3 points under the heading of new deals and announcements. The fourth point is about the coal. There's a very interesting case out here. South Africa, you may or may not be knowing, that South Africa is the country in the world which is the most carbon intensive electricity producer. So therefore, to help out South Africa, UK, US, France, Germany, and European Union, they have made a groundbreaking partnership to support South Africa, the world's most carbon intensive electricity producer, with $8.5 billion over next 3 to 5 years to make a just transition away from coal to a low carbon economy. And the fifth point I wish to share with you all, ladies and gentlemen, is the private finance. There are 450 firms across 45 countries, 450 firms across 45 countries controlling $130 trillion in assets. They have made a commitment which is called as Glasgow Financial Alliance, GFA, Glasgow Financial Alliance, for net zero carbon emission, setting robust science-based near-term targets towards achieving global net zero emission. These are the few issues I thought I must share with you. But then the point must come, how is India doing? I mean, we all are citizens of India. We should be concerned as also looking forward to opportunities wherein we can contribute. And how does it manifest at the local level? So keeping in view the time available, I'll just quickly give you the highlights of what India is doing with regard to COP26 or overall climate change. India ranks 4th in the world in installed renewable energy capacity. You all would be knowing about this. India's non-fossil fuel energy has increased considerably by more than 25% in last 7 years. And it has reached 40% of an energy matrix. Third, Indian Railway has made a commitment to achieve net zero by 2030. What it means is that 60 million tons of carbon emission will be reduced annually. The LED bulb campaign has drastically reduced the carbon emission by 40 million tons annually. These are all record-breaking. No nation has been able to achieve so much. We are the only nation. India has initiated International Solar Alliance. You all would be aware that Solar Alliance, as on today, if I'm not wrong, there are 120 countries. There are 10 more who are willing to join, 10 or 20 more. Total figure will be coming to around 140 or 150 in near future. But our Honorable Prime Minister, he has given that Panchamrit, you call it, 5 nectar elements in relation to the COP26. What are these 5 nectar elements? They have been taken as a Bible by other nations to follow suit. First and foremost thing he has said is that India will take its non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatts by 2030. Second point he has said is that India will meet 50% of its energy requirements from renewable energy by 2030. The third point which he has said, Honorable Prime Minister, is that India will reduce the total projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons from now on till 2030. India will reduce total projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons from now till 2030. The fourth point which he has given is by 2030, India will reduce the carbon intensity of its economy by less than 45%. Last but not the least, the fifth point, by the year 2070, India will achieve the target of net zero. Ladies and gentlemen, since it is a lecture or a talk based on facts and figures, I couldn't help it. I had to actually read out much of the text from diary or my research document. Now, the floor is open for questions. We have 10 odd minutes or 15 minutes. You can throw any question you wish to ask. Please go ahead.
Okay, the form for asking questions would be you can raise hand and I will moderate, or you can type your questions in the chat box and I can read those, and then I'll call what questions you need to ask. You can type your questions quickly if you have any questions. Please feel free to ask any questions.
I must
Type
compliment
your questions. Sorry,
your
sir.
candidates are very, very educated, very IT.
Yeah, this is a good group, sir. Good match. And they can type the questions from this issue. Rajneesh, type your question. What does reduce 1.5 degree by 2050? Achha. Sir, just a clarification, it's not a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that something you dictated to them. What is to be reduced by 1.5 degree by 2050?
Global temperature, our target, the basic aim of climate change, all these conferences is to reach a target of global temperature, average temperature. It should be reduced. Whatever temperature is today, we should be able to achieve a target of 1.5 degrees centigrade lesser than what it is today. It is only then the glaciers and the Arctic that are melting today, the flash floods you have, the landslides you have, the water levels which are rising in the sea will somewhat remain where they are. If we do not achieve this, then islands like Maldives, islands like Solomon, islands like there are a couple of other islands which are coming into highlight will get submerged very soon. It is the temperature, the global temperature.
Right. Sir. Okay, sir, I think since you have explained the things so well, and this not being any controversial issue, yeah, Ashutosh, one question has come. Just
Sir, I'm just typing. Sir, I'm just
yeah,
typing.
just type. First type. I'll read out to sir. Kunal has said, what is the way forward for India? What immediate changes does it need to take first? And second question is, sir, Omkar, setting purifiers in cities will help. Will it help? Some purifiers are coming in the cities. Will that help? And Ritushri saying, what all comes under green energy? So, say, take these three questions first. That is, what all is part of green energy, and then purifiers in cities, and then the first being the. Just a minute.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the first question is a beautiful
way forward.
Ask the way forward for from Indian context. You see, our context, India is a nation with an economy which is $2.7 trillion. We took almost about 60 years to reach a target of $1 trillion. That is by 2007. We are a $1 trillion economy. And our economy started off as an agrarian economy. It was based on coal energy to start with. Okay, and it based on a concept of socialistic socio-economic infrastructure. So by and by, from agrarian, we have started getting industrialized post-liberalization 1991 in a significant manner. Our economy started showing progressive signs of development from the year 2003, but reckonable are from 2005 to 2011, wherein we had posted, it was with an average GDP percentage of 7 to almost about 9-10%. This actually has given us a deserving place in the global order today. Way back in 1990, our economy had a GDP of $260 billion, but by the year 2007, it had become 1 trillion. Look at the jump. And by the year 2014, it had become 1.7 trillion. Okay, and sorry, it became 2 trillion. And by 2019, it became 2.7 trillion. All I'm saying is that if economy is the central factor based on which the nation has to progress and develop, then the energy has to be paramount. It has to be consistently in a sustained manner supplied for the economy. China has taken an economic boom because of a non-stop supply of the energy fuel coming from all over the world. So similarly, and what is the energy security that we are looking for? All kinds of energy security are basically fossil fuels. You have the petrol, you have the diesel, you have coal, likewise. So therefore, the only way to go ahead as a way ahead is to transform our dependence on fossil fuel to something other than fossil fuel. So what are the something other than fossil fuels? The something other than the fossil fuels are the renewable energy. What are the kinds of renewable energy? It answers the third question also, the green energy. The windmills, okay, the solar panels, the tidal energy, hydel electricity, the nuclear energy. These are all green energy. They come under the heading of clean energy. But there are very complex issues, NSG and others. We are still not a member of NSG group today. We do not have uninterrupted supply of the uranium coming from other countries. So there are many issues. Maybe when time comes next, when we discuss about the nuclear issue, we'll discuss about it. But suffice to say that this is one component which I have explained. The second and most important component is that what is the critical issue in the entire global order today is the water. China today, most of its cities do not have regular supply of drinking water. It has got an acute shortage of water. Similarly, India is going to face this problem of water very soon. So how is water impacted? How is it related on the ground? When you look at Punjab, once upon a time, Punjab used to be a wheat producing state, #1 state of the country. Today, it is not only wheat, they have gone in for paddy also. Paddy requires constant level of water. It is a water dependent crop. Without water, you cannot have paddy cultivation. So therefore, your crop cultivation, your choice of the crop that you are going in for has to be accordingly appropriately selected. You have to go in for such crops which require minimum water. Third, your lifestyle. Your lifestyle. People, as we are growing and the economy is growing, our per capita income is increasing. You would realize and agree with me, the protein intake of our diet has increased substantially. Most of you would bear me out that almost, if not daily, at least twice or once in a week, you would be having either mutton or chicken or some non-vegetarian. Each of these animals that you butcher, okay, any animal for that matter, be it red meat or white meat, their survival is based on water. I don't have the statistics, but I would definitely go in for before my interview tomorrow that Westerners, when they butcher a cow, to rear one cow to a state of butchering, it requires, there is an equation which they have formulated. It consumes a lot of water. It consumes a lot of grass. Similarly, your own lifestyle, if you can go in for something like, sustainable energy producing, in good old days, about the 80s or 90s, one system had started in India. We called it biogas. The cow dung produced or generated by the cows or the cattle, it is to be put into a container, fermented there. After some time, it is to generate gas. That gas is to actually help us, cooking our food, also lighting purposes. These are all biodegradable emissions. Also go in for those kind of products which are biodegradable. Plastic, production of plastic requires water. Today silicon, whenever silicon, any equipment which we are using today, any electronic gadget has got a chip. That is an IC, be it your mobile, be it your laptop, be it your computer, be it your television, be it your tablet, anything for that matter. That chip, ladies and gentlemen, is known as a wafer. It is a thin alloy. To produce 30 centimeter of wafer, it requires something close to 2,600 gallons of water. Out of 2,600 gallons of water, 1,600 gallons of water. 1 gallon is around 4 liters of water. 1,600 gallons of water is ultra pure water. To produce 1 liter of ultra pure water, it requires so many quantum of. So what I'm saying is our lifestyle has to undergo complete change. Your dietary habit, your dependence on electronics, your day-to-day living, commutation from place into place, be dependence on the fossil fuel. And therefore, the nation has rightfully taken this decision. Switch over to what our Prime Minister is saying. Cities. Yes, you have a point. Cities have a very significant role to play all over the world. Our lifestyle in cities is different from the lifestyle in the villages. All the points I have covered for the first one are also relevant and applicable to the second one as also third. That's it. Next, please.
Sir, uske baad, sir, just couple of 2 more questions. Ek do questions though not relevant. They are saying that Gulf countries, what will happen to them? Because they are exporting only fossil fuels. And second is, one question I would pose is, how do the carbon emitting countries are setting up to cope with the problem of what's the accountability of European countries' environment damage? That you have already covered, I think.
Okay. So next question, it's a very relevant, very interesting. Who's asked this question? Is it from Mahinder yourself?
No, sir. Yeah, this is which one? Which question, sir?
The Gulf countries. Okay.
Gulf. This is by Naresh. Naresh has asked this question.
Yeah, very good. Very, very intelligent question, I must say. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, the question is absolutely relevant. I am just back from Oman. In Oman, when you go from airport to a place called as Sohar, a distance of around 280 kilometers, you can't believe whether you are in a desert or you're in a tropical country. The first question I asked was, how are these plants growing? How have you managed to have a green belt? How are the road dividers filled with petunias, begonias, all kinds of flowers? I haven't seen such kind of plants and flowers in my country or any country. I've gone around at least 79 to 80 countries so far. They have started desalinizing the water, the sea water. And the water is being utilized in a most optimal and economic manner by drip irrigation, drop by drop. You take the example, whenever you have opportunity, go and visit the Reliance industry at Jamnagar. Reliance industry, the mango grove they have developed. There are different varieties of mangoes. This is the only place in the world you have all special varieties of mangoes. It is by drip irrigation. And the water is being actually desalinized from the sea water, and that is being fed to the plants. So Gulf country is going out. They are well aware of this. They're dependent on seawater. At the same time, they have already exhausted the option of groundwater level. Groundwater is gone. So therefore, there is a system which is prevailing there. The thought process is on how to artificially create clouds and bring about rainfall, how to increase the level of the groundwater, how to improve it. There are different methods. Artificial creation of water, using them, storing them at a place also contributes towards improvement of groundwater level. The change of lifestyle is also undergoing change. Incidentally, the population in the Middle East is very less, by the way. You'll be surprised, in a country like Oman, their own population was 19 lakh and the expats were 21 or 22 lakhs. So similarly, if you put together, I think Middle East, West Asia has got 8.6 crores or something like that. Not very much. Yeah. And one thing, keep in mind, they are diversifying. They are not dependent purely on the fossil fuel. All the countries have commenced the process of diversification of their economy to cotton, to the wheat production. You'll be surprised to learn that the West Asian countries or the Middle East countries, Gulf countries, they are one of the largest producers in cement, largest producers in wheat. Check out, when you have time, just Google it, you'll find. They're going in for artificially creating jungles and forested areas. Yeah, next please.
Sir, we'll have to end the session here, I think.
Okay. I'm glad, I'm happy. We have met your timeline. And
lot of,
ladies and gentlemen, I hope I've been able to meet your requirement in a short time. And it's a very important and a burning topic, and I wish you all the very best. And congratulations to the director.
Thank you so much, sir, once again for joining us and with such an important issue. And you have really touched upon all the important aspects. And I'm sure the boys and girls who have attended this, as well as those who will be watching it on YouTube. Subsequently, we'll be uploading it shortly. And those of you, if you missed something, you can see this on YouTube. I think by tomorrow we'll upload it. But keep reading about this climate change, because it is the issue which is affecting one and all around the world. Thank you very much, sir. And we
Thank you.
hope
Thank you,
that you
sir.
will come the next batch also with some new burning topic. That we were,
Anything that
coming
comes to
up
your
with.
mind, always a pleasure to interact
Thank you
with
very
the
much.
boys and girls.
Thank you so much, sir. For
Thank you so
sparing the
much.
time.
All the very best. Thank you.